this Thursday, which is the 9th of July, there is a new Imala chapter of stamps being launched. I believe it's chapter 9. So I thought I would get some of my stamps out. These are ones that I haven't got around to using yet, which is the Panda and Standout, which actually says people will stare, make it worth their while. And instead of doing a card, I'm going to do a canvas. So this is like A4 size, and I think it's about 3mm thickness. And it's been ages since I've done a canvas, and I have to remember that if it goes wrong I can just gesso over it so I don't get too fussy and picky with it. Yeah, so I'm going to start by stamping my image. I have now stamped my image and the sentiment on my canvas. Obviously at the moment the panda head looks a bit like it's floating in midair, so I just want to fill in down here just with some dark watercolours. I'm not too worried about how it looks because I'm actually going to fill this in with something else, but I don't want this white background to show through. And I'm also going to do green in the background here, so it looks like he's sort of in the forest or somewhere. I have stamped this in VersaFine Onyx Black, and I've then heat embossed it, and I did use my press to impress. It was a bit tricky because obviously this canvas is bigger than my press to impress, but with a bit of shuffling around I managed to do it. I did want to get it in there purely so that I could come back in the same place as many times as I needed to, because this has a texture. It doesn't always take the ink first time, so I wanted to make sure that I could keep repeating it until I got those nice dark ears and eyes and that everything was nice and clear. Now I don't know how the camera's going to react to this because it looks to me on screen as if it's slightly fuzzy because of this textured background, but I'm going to have a go. So I am using my Spectrum Aquas because I don't have any other watercolours other than watercolour pencils, which is not really going to work with this. I want to get myself some either tubes of paint or some little pans of watercolours, but I'm using these for now. And I've got the black because obviously this part of the panda down here next would be black. And I'm just going to scribble some on acrylic block and add some water. In fact, I've already put a little bit on there, and I am just spritzing it with a spray bottle. I have got paintbrush. This is a 3/4 paintbrush, but it doesn't really matter. This is a it's not really a very nice brush, so it's just good for putting a wash on. And I'm going to take it out from about here, so it looks as if he is. That's where his body starts. Like I say, I'm not going to be too fussed because I will be filling in the bottom with something else, but I don't. It's just purely so the white doesn't show through. And I need some more black. And I don't want this to come out, well, it doesn't matter if it comes out black or grey. Like I say, it's just to hide the white. That's that bit done. Like I say, it's not perfect, it's just a dark background, just so any when I've finished decorating this part, anything showing through is not going to be a stark white. Next I'm going to do the background in some greens. So at the moment I have got 3 greens, and I've got leaf green, bud green and moss. And I think I'm going to start off with the moss. You'll be able to see, I hope, that that's quite a dark green. This is sort of medium, and this is a very bright one. So I'm thinking that will go for the mid-tone, which is the moss. And I'm just going to do the same thing. And I think there'll probably be a little bit of the black left on my brush, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm going to turn it round because I think it will be easier. I'm going to cover the whole background with the moss, and then I will I'll come back to show you what I'm going to do with these two colours. I have done the background in the moss, and I quite like the fact that I had the grey still on the brush here, so I've added a bit more in places. But you can see obviously this white halo around the sorry, there's flickering. Yeah, you can see a white halo around the panda, so I'm going to fill that in with a smaller brush and then go back to my other colours. Right, I've used the leaf green around the top there to just make that a bit brighter and lighter. I put some shadowing behind the bear here, just behind the panda, just to give that bit of a darker element around there. So I used the black for that watered down, it comes through grey like this. Obviously I've gone over some of the leaves and flowers with the green, but I'm not worried about that. And then I've been using the leaf green. Sorry, I have to leave this on the canvas because otherwise the camera goes in and out. Yeah, so I've used the leaf green, and I'm obviously going to use some water on it with this thin brush, or thinner brush I should say. I'm, instead of going like that, I'm just using the tip so I can get lines, and those are going to be my bamboo, which is why I'm using the darker ink. So hopefully you can see those. Now it does sort of absorb into the canvas, so I'm going over them 2 or 3 times, but I'm not worried as long as you can see these darker lines here. So it looks like he's standing in amongst the bamboo. Just want to be careful that I don't fill in all of that background with the darker colour, so I think I'm happy with that as it is. My next job is going to be to colour in the flowers on her hair, and I picked out some more watercolours, but I want the colour to be more intense, so I'm probably going to put it direct to the canvas, but obviously there'll be a certain amount of absorption with that, so yeah, it's whether I can spread the colour quick enough. I'm using this tiny brush here, which is a 4, it's a Bouldermere, but I'm pretty sure I just picked this up in a pack with loads of others in the works, so it's not expensive at all. I'm going to spritz some water onto my acrylic block, and I'm going to start with the leaves. So I'm going to pop some moss just down at the tips, and then take my brush, wet it, and just drag some of the colour. It is moving a bit. Okay, so we've kind of got a background tone there. Now, the thing I have learned is not to get the tips of these wet. If you dip these straight into water, they lose their colour. It does come back if you haven't if you haven't over wet it. The ink will eventually come back to the tip. But yeah, that was a bit scary because you can see that I did actually do it to that one. The acrylic block was still wet and I scribbled on it. But then see if you compare it to the purple, you can actually see that you might not be able to see on the, but this one is fluffier. It's gone, the tip's gone a bit fluffy, whereas this one's still quite solid. So yeah, that's just a tip. And then I am going to use the bud green because I want this to be nice and bright. And that is our first leaf done. I can obviously add to that if I want to, but I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to finish colouring in the rest of the leaves and I will come back in a moment. That's the leaves done, and now I'm going to move on to the flowers, and I'm going to use some really bright colours. So I've got some purples out, some pinks, and I'm also thinking about going for a sort of goldy yellow maybe. I'll just see how I get on. I'm just going to use exactly the same technique, just start the ink in the middle of the flower and drag it out with some water on a brush. The flowers are done. With this yellow one, I scribbled a bit of the yellow in the middle, so I've got sunflower and gold. So I put the sunflower in the middle and then spritzed actually onto the canvas with water, and it did spread it, and then I just mopped it where it was puddling too much, and I did the same with the gold, just put it on the longer bits and spritzed it and again mopped it up, and it sort of spread the leaf so it looks a bit like it's yellow and white, which I quite like. The others obviously I've done in purples because that's my favourite colour, and I put a sort of orange stamen piece on that one. And now I'm going to move on to the next stage. I have stamped the panda out, or at least the flower part of it again, and heat embossed those, and then I'm going to cut them out and pop them onto my canvas. All cut and ready to colour. As you can probably see, I have cut them down from the original design. So for this one here, get that in the right place. You see I've cut this bit off because it's quite fiddly, and I've also cut this one off because I cut quite thin there and it was hanging off, so I thought I'd cut that off, but I've left that one. For this piece I have cut both of these off, and this leaf here, and again that was another bit that I've cut off all of them because it was just too fiddly and life's too short. And then finally I've just left the flowers and the two leaves at the bottom of that one, and now I'm going to colour them in. I'm going to use the watercolours again, and I will share them when I've finished. I have coloured in the bits that I've stamped, the extra bits I stamped and cut out, so they are all coloured now. I've got 3 of those. Like I said, they're all different shapes. I've missed bits of them just to make them look all different. Next I've done some die cutting, so I've chosen Carley's signature collection. We've got the Scandinavian folk art and the vintage folk art, so I've chosen the panda from this one because it had the bamboo in it, so I thought I had to add that really. And then I've chosen the flowers and sort of flourishes from the vintage folk art range. So we've got the flourishes, Hannah and Maya, and Lena and Flo. Yes, there's quite a few there to play with. Just cut them out from white cardstock, and I'm now going to colour them with my watercolour pens again. I've coloured some of the die cuts up, and how I've done that is I've actually scribbled them with the watercolour pens onto a page in my journal. Now this is quite thick paper, so it will take quite a bit of water. Now this is only really an ordinary cardstock, although it takes a reasonable amount of water for what it is. Yeah, if you over soak it will just start to peel, and you'll get that like fuzzy texture to it. Yeah, so I've coloured on this, spritzed, and then just dumped it in, and I'm taking them out and let them dry. I've done quite a few of the smaller bits already. I have done some of the larger pieces, but I think I might want those to be a little darker. But I'm going to start putting my canvas together now. Before I start putting my canvas together, there was one more thing I want to say. So I've darkened these lines here to look like the bamboo, and I've also darkened this area here a little as well. And I've also gone around the edge a bit with the black, which turns grey when you spritz it with the water, because obviously it tones it down. And I've also gone around the flowers just to add a bit of shadow as well. And it is finished. So I have added the extras that I cut out of these down the bottom, and I filled in bits with those die cuts that I've also coloured, and some bits I've left so they're not glued down, so it gives it a bit more depth. And I've shaped things, curved the leaves and that, so again they're not flat. I've added a couple of the flower dies as well, but mostly it's these tiny dies or smaller dies to fill in sections. What I've also done is, you'll see on this one here, there's actually a long stamen. So I've added just under here a die coming up through the flower. So I've done that to all those type flowers. And then with the yellow ones, I've put in these extra bits as well, coming out the centre of those as well. So I just thought that added a bit more to it. And I think those dies have worked really well actually with that flower collection there. And obviously you've got the sentiment at the top. I will leave you with some stills at the end so you can see some close-ups. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave me a thumbs up. Don't forget that Carley is on tomorrow. That's the 9th of July at 2:15. And until next time, cheerio.